do something that you are afraid to do because you don't know what might come of it, whether it be good or bad or absolutely nothing that comes of it at all. Don't be fearful of situations or anything, but just do it. Be confident in it and run with it.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of your favorite podcast, the Roughnecks Podcast. If this is your favorite podcast, then you need to go to our website and grab yourself some awesome Roughnecks gear. Once you get there, you will realize that you are in luck because we are having a Christmas sale on our website. What better gift to get a loved one, or maybe even yourself, than some beautiful Roughnecks merch? You can head over to roughneckspodcast.com and get 20% off your order. But let's get in to today's guest. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. We are back with another guest episode, and before we get into today's guest, I want to remind you that we are having a sale on the website right now until December 22nd, 20% off everything on the website. Head over to roughneckspodcast.com, place your order today. It'll be automatically discounted when you go into the checkout. Also, send your questions over for Q&A Friday. Q&A Friday is coming out this Friday, so send your questions in. These questions can be about anything and everything. Me and Caleb Scott will be answering your questions. And every question you submit to roughneckspodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram enters you in for a random prize drawing. So send the questions in, go over to roughneckspodcast.com, buy yourself some merch. But joining me today is a friend of Sierra's. Is how I originally met you. Mm-hmm. Shelby, welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast.
Hi.
You said you're nervous to do this, and it's okay. It's very normal. Actually, a lot of people. I had just last week recorded with a guy. He's the behind-the-scenes guy of a podcast, and he's like, "This is very awkward for me.
Yes.
I'm not used to being the one on the microphone." But eventually, by the end of the episode, you're going to forget there's a microphone there, and you'll be fine. So just to kind of kick this episode off, give us a background on who you are. Just kind of tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first off, my name is Shelby McCombs. I grew up with Sierra since I've been in kindergarten, so I've known her for a long time. I'm known for being a softball player. That's what everyone knows me for. I started playing when I was 8, I think. Yeah. Kind of grew up watching my sisters play softball, and then I started taking into pitching. So once I started pitching, I just grew into that for the rest of my life. I went to Licking Valley High School. We were state champions. And then I started playing pretty aggressively in the travel ball world. And so then the recruiting process started there. I think around 13 is when I was introduced into the recruiting world of softball. And so after that, I committed my freshman year to the University of Louisville, and then I transferred. Well, let me back up. I graduated from Valley early, went down for a semester at Louisville, transferred to Ohio State, finished my last 3 years there, and then took a year off, and then came back and played professional softball for a year. And then I opened up my own business.
So, kind of going all the way back to the beginning, you grew up watching your sisters play. Is that kind of what sparked your interest into softball, or was it always just something that you were interested in general?
Honestly, I didn't even have any interest in softball at all.
Really?
No. Like, I would watch my sisters play at Kiwanis, and I wanted nothing to do with it, per what my dad has told me. I would just play up in the woods and all that kind of stuff, and then one day, I guess, we were out in the yard. My sisters were hitting with my dad, and he said I just took a bat and swung, and that's when it started.
That's interesting. So, like, and then also with pitching, was pitching always what you wanted to do?
No. Nope.
It's weird how that just you ended up going and playing professionally and as a
Mhm.
pitcher, and that's not always what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I guess I had no interest in softball as a kid. We so my sister, the one that's older than me, I have two older sisters, but the one that's the next oldest, she was big into cheerleading. So I would do cheerleading with her. So that's where I was like,
So you almost wanted to do cheerleading rather than softball, but then something. What do you know? What
no, I have no idea.
you just all of a sudden it just switched, and you just kind of fell in love with a different sport.
Yep.
Which I mean, it's the same for me. Like I didn't go play professionally on any of my sports or anything, but growing up, it was always basketball. Basketball is what I wanted,
Mhm.
and I don't know where it changed exactly, but all of a sudden it was football.
Yeah.
I just fell in love and was like, I quit basketball my senior year.
Yeah.
Ended up going and playing my senior year, but like I didn't want to play basketball anymore.
Mhm.
Baseball is the one thing I wish I stuck with, but nah, you have those mistakes that you make and
Oh yeah.
things you learn from.
Yep.
But so you also did make the decision to graduate earlier. What was the reason? Actually, I'm going to rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Recruiting process starting at 13.
Well, back then it was
You were
totally,
actually allowed to then, weren't you?
well, yeah, but a lot of the colleges back then, they were recruiting kids extremely early. Like some kids were committing in 8th grade. So now the new rule is they can't even talk to you until you're a junior, which is great. I love that. So being a pitcher, it was really important that if you kind of weren't committed by your freshman year, it wasn't an end all be all, but you were kind of limited to where you might be going because they were committing each class so early.
Is that still true today? Well, obviously not. Probably true today. When do most people are they committing as seniors now?
No, so I just had one of my students. She is a junior this year. She just committed to LSU. So now, like they'll call you, and it's totally different. So I asked her how the recruiting process goes now, and she said when it hit midnight on, I think it's September 1st. She said she was getting phone call after phone call, text message, like making sure she was awake, and it was like nonstop. It's wild.
I don't know how I'd feel about it'd be cool, but at the same time I'd be like, can you at least wait till the morning? Like, let me go to bed, please.
I know, that's what I thought too. I'm like, that late? Like right at midnight they're
right at
calling?
midnight.
Yeah. That's
I
what
mean, I
said.
guess it shows that if you're getting messages like that at midnight, it shows that you are like somebody.
Oh yeah.
You're doing well for yourself.
Yep.
What was that recruiting process like for you, and like especially at a young age? Which I like. I do like that you said that you agree with them changing it to older because I mean, 13, let alone at 17, 18 years old, I can't make those you're making a very big decision in your life that I didn't realize this decision I was making when I went to college and I went Division III to Ohio Wesleyan. You don't realize the money commitment if you're not lucky enough to get a scholarship.
Yep.
Just all the commitment that you're making. So what was it like being so young dealing with that recruiting process? Was a lot of it through your parents or were they talking to you directly?
So first off, it was the most stressful thing. I'll never forget. Because if you really think about it, we're 13, 14 trying to make a decision that could affect the rest of our life. Like that's so young. And so a lot of it was you would get stuff in the mail of colleges that would be interested in you. You'd go to their camp if they invited you, if you wanted to go there. But a lot of it too, your travel ball coach would relay information to your parents. Your parents would relay it to you until a certain time frame where they could talk to you. It would be in high school. But a lot of it would be you'd go to their campus and they'd talk to you there and do all the, the money talk stuff.
Yeah.
So it was, and it was really weird because we had no idea. My parents and I had no idea about the recruiting process. It was so new, so fresh, because nobody in my family had experienced anything like that. So we had no grounds to stand on. But I don't know. It was really stressful. That's what I remember a lot because you just don't know where to go, what you're looking for. You don't know because you're trying to guess what the future is going to look like. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I might enjoy it now, but what am I going to be like when I get here? Like, you just don't know. So,
and I wanted to ask, like, if you could give a piece of advice to maybe, like, what do you tell your, your students that are going through the recruiting process? Like, is there one piece of advice that you could give to them, like a high school junior, senior, whatever, younger than that, even like getting ready to go into that recruiting process?
Yeah. I always tell all my girls, I tell them to, right when they get to freshman year, I tell them, like, pick 15 schools that you're really looking at. Figure out if you want to go away from home, if you want to stay close to home. Are you willing to be away from your family that much? Like, if you want to go all the way out west, down south, like, are you willing to be away from them? Next, then we were talking about would be what size campus, what is your degree? Like, figure out what degree you want to have, and then that's where now you have to start laying out, okay, what colleges are fitting into my top 15. Because at the end of the day, if you are an athlete playing a sport, that's not going to be forever. So your degree and what you want to do for the rest of your life is where you have to focus. And some girls, they don't get that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand that when I was that young either.
Neither did I.
I'm like, softball, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm going to do this forever. And luckily I can, but most people don't have that opportunity to do that. So I think that's the big focus that I try to ingrain in them is what degree, where are you most interested at in your life path? Do you want to be a nurse? Do you want to be a physical therapist? Do you want to be a business owner? Like all these different things. So that's where I try to steer them to figure out.
Yeah, those are some very important things to look at that I did not consider. I mean, I did originally wanted to major in computer science, so like I was looking into those things and like making sure they had it, but it was definitely like if the school didn't have it, I was just still like, I'm gonna go play football, figure something else out. Like I'll find a new. No, I didn't end up graduating with a degree in computer science because I found out that shit is really hard, and changed that. But so you left high school early. What was the decision for that? It sounds like you might, I don't want to say regret, but maybe.
No, I do.
You do regret it?
Yes.
So kind of take us through like why you decided to leave high school early and why you regret it.
So when I was younger, I was in a big comparison game. There was another girl that I was competing against my whole entire career. And it was extremely difficult being that young, like having to, like I said, the recruiting process and stuff. And so when you compete against someone at such a high level, my goal was to obviously try to outperform or outwork her. And she's awesome. She still plays and she's awesome. Give her all the credit. But looking back, my goal was, okay, I'm going to go down to college early. I'm going to get a head start so that when we are both true freshmen, like I'd be a red shirt. That was the goal. That I'm going to go out guns blazing and like show everybody that I'm way more capable than what I was given credit for back then. So it was a poor choice. I regret it, but I did learn a lot. But yeah, it was pretty dumb.
That's interesting.
I missed out on my senior season with all of my high school. I missed out on the proms, my senior season playing softball with all the girls that we were state title winners, which we could have went back and won it again. 100%. I know that, but it was just a poor choice. And yeah, I definitely regret it.
I don't know. You guys were just mediocre at best. I'm just saying.
Get out of here.
I never went to state in anything, so I can't say anything. No, that's interesting because it's different than like what I'm used to with football, where they play their season in the fall and then they graduate and leave.
Yep.
Softball's in the spring, so did you skip your whole senior year or just half of
just half? Okay. So I graduated in December of my senior year. So then I left after I think it was the new year, the first of the year or something like that, and I went down to Louisville, moved into my dorm. So it was like odd because that freshman class, they had that whole fall together, getting to know each other, getting accustomed, which I played with a lot of them in travel ball anyways, but they had already grown with that team. And so I missed out on like the hard part, the growing period.
Yes.
And so I just jumped right in the spring and wasn't supposed to play at all. And then 2 of the pitchers on staff got hurt. So then my college coach sat me down and was like, would you be willing to play? And I'm like, well, would you think I'm ready? And I knew, I'm going to have to do it. Like, there's no option. You have, 2 other pitchers that are going to be rode all year? Like, that's not going to work. And she said, yeah, we think you can do that. And I was like, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll do.
So are you 17 or 18 at the time?
How old would I have been? Yeah, I would have been 18, right? I don't
But
even
May
remember.
would have been the end of the year because graduation's in May. So you'd have been 17.
No, I would have been 18 when I graduated, so I would have been 18. 17. 17? I don't even remember. One of those ages.
Either way, you're a 17-year-old, 18-year-old at this time.
Maybe 19.
Maybe 19. I'm so confused. You guys are confusing me now. Getting thrown into this situation of not expecting to play and then having to essentially step up and play with grown-ups. Like, you're no longer playing the Little League.
No.
You're in the, I don't want to say big leagues, but you're in the next level real quick.
Yeah.
How was your first experience getting to play?
It was difficult, challenging. I learned a lot about myself, and it helped me grow. But I don't think I was all the way prepared for it. Mentally, I don't think that I was.
I feel like it's hard to ask a 17, 18, 19, however old you were at the time, since you guys can't figure this out, like a kid, to be completely prepared for it. And if they are, I feel like they're lying.
Yeah.
There's no way.
But yeah, I think maybe performance level wise, there's always room to, you can always be better at what you do. But I think at that moment, yes, I was somewhat prepared. But I was always up for that challenge. Like, if anyone asked me to do anything, a coach or anything like that, I'd be like, okay, yes, I'll do whatever you need me to do. There was no questions asked about that. So I think that kind of helped me a lot maneuver that, because if I'm going to do something and someone believes in me, then I'm going to do it.
Exactly. And I think that's something that a lot of kids are missing nowadays. Where, like, I even see it. My nieces are 5th grade. I don't even know if she's that old. 5th grade, 4th grade, even younger. The oldest is 5th grade. And I'm like, they're getting into, like, the more competitive, like, team sports now, where it's not like the church league basketball or whatever, which, don't get me wrong, it's great. Church league is great for learning. But when you don't keep score in that, like, you have to win and lose in life when it comes a point, in my opinion. And like, I'm watching some of their games today, and I'm like, if I ever gave my coach that facial expression, or like threw the ball at the ref that way, like, 1, my mom might have killed me. 2, like, I wouldn't have played. And I don't like the challenge of when they get challenged with things. And I helped coach a little bit a couple years ago. And like, just like, you'll challenge them, and they like, I'd have girls like sit down, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you sitting on the court? I mean, it took me a minute, because I'm like, I just came from college, like of the college level of football to these 8-year-olds. So it's a little bit different, but I don't feel like they want competition as much. Do you like what kind of ages do you work with a lot of times?
Oh, I have a youngest that, the youngest I work with is 7. The oldest I work with is, there's a couple in college now that I still see here and there, but 17.
Do you see the drive? Is there a difference between that drive? And obviously there's probably going to be a little bit of a difference, but like, just how they take maybe coaching or criticism, is there a difference in the age, like with the ages?
I think the first thing I always make sure my kids know is that I'm going to give it to them straight. Everyone knows that about me. I don't sugarcoat anything, but I also make them feel good about what they accomplish. And that's one thing I was not good about doing when I first started, because I came right out of the college atmosphere, pro ball experience, and I went gun blazing, like, wow, pushing people so hard. And now, being a mom, I really try to make sure they understand what they're doing and credit them when they do even the smallest things great, but also make sure that they aren't being lethargic and just uncompetitive and undriven and unmotivated. That is so hard for me to look at now. This generation is so different than what I was like growing up.
Yeah.
But if I'm being honest, and I preach this to everybody. My dad's going to laugh if he hears this. I was an extremely lazy worker. Like, I just had a God-given ability, my genetics and everything, but I was lazy. And so when I try to work with my kids now, I try to preach that to them. I'm like, listen, I was a lazy kid. I could have been way better than what I was. And so when I see you do this in that manner, I know you're not putting in 100% effort. And I try to push them a little bit harder, but
It's so hard for kids to understand that.
Mhm.
I wish, I remember getting told that when I was a kid, and I didn't take it to heart. Did I work hard? In my opinion, yes. But did I work as hard as I could have?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Mhm.
If I'd have just maybe quit partying so much in high school even, that would have been great. If I would have just listened to things my uncle and people would say to me, I just wish I'd have listened to it. And it's so hard to get that. You try, and I've tried to get it across the kids, and they're like, yeah, I understand. And you're like, no, I really don't think you do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to save you from making the same mistake that I just made.
Mhm.
It does suck.
Yeah.
So the way that you coached your kids, is that how you like to be coached?
Oh, yes.
I figured that it
Mhm.
makes sense. Usually I feel like you adopt the coaching habits of coaches that you appreciated and were like to be
Yes.
around.
Yeah. My dad also was like that too. So he
Then-
just gave it to me straight. He pushed me really hard, but
Yeah, my mom was the same way, and I loved it, but I hated it.
Yeah.
I get out of a football game, and my mom surprisingly knew a lot about football, still does to this
Mhm.
day. And I get out of a game, and she'd be like, "So, you want the good or the bad?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm getting both, so let's just skip to the bad. Don't even tell me the good
Uh-huh.
at this point." But she'd say things, and I'd be like, "Whatever, you don't know what you're talking about." And then I'd be watching film, and I'd be like,
oh, she
"Oh,
does. She does know
wow,
what she's
okay, she called that. That's right. I need to do that better." But
Uh-huh.
I like that. I like getting criticism. It's
Yeah.
constructive criticism
Yes.
is one of the most beneficial things that I wish people just understood today.
Positive constructive criticism. Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
So, what was the ultimate decision? So you were at Louisville for a semester, and
Mhm.
then came back home and went to Ohio State. What was the ultimate decision behind that, and what was that transfer process like? Because I've heard it can be stressful and very difficult at times.
Mhm.
What was it like for you? And what was what was the ultimate decision to do it?
So I'm a big homebody. When I was going through the recruiting process, I told mom and dad, I said, peace out. I don't want to be close to home. I'm going away. And just for reference, Louisville was never one of the schools ever on my mind. I didn't know anything about Louisville at the time. And then when we went down there, I fell in love with it. However, when I got on campus, I was away for the first time in my entire life. And I was like, ugh, I can't even drive home. I can't go home to my nieces, my nephews. It was awful. And so we would have midweek games, Wednesdays. My whole family would drive down to Louisville, watch me play, and then go home.
Damn.
And I was so upset every time they leave. And at one point, my dad, he took me home on a weekend. We'd had I think it was a midweek game. We had the weekend off, something like that. He said, I'll take you all the way home and I'll drive you back before weights on Monday. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, just come home for the weekend. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I can't. This is so bad. I miss being home. I miss the family. And so after that year, I was like, I just want to go home. And so I started that that transfer process. And then
Does it essentially was there a transfer portal type of thing?
it was weird back then. So at the end of the year meeting, I was bawling in their office. I was so intimidated because I said, I don't know if I want to come back. And I remember I was they were not happy. And, but one of my coaches was like, if you don't want to be here, then you don't want to be here. And I was like, I don't, I just want to go home. And so, she wasn't going to release me. So my college coach at the time was not going to release me. And so basically at that moment, what you have to do is you have to, I forget what it's called. You have to put an appeal in. So you have to appeal that decision through the NCAA, and then they have to approve it. So that started that whole process, and she finally ended up releasing me, and it started for me to be able to talk to college coaches again. Now, I had some people on my list, like Texas. I was interested in going to Texas, but I didn't have enough college credits because I was only a semester in. So I had to have 30 or 31 credits to transfer to that school. But everyone was like, Texas, and you want to go home, but Texas. And I was like, you're right. So she wanted me to go to a community college, and then go be on campus in Texas the following year. And I was like, I'm not taking a year off. Like, I don't want to do that. Because at the time I was kind of just ready to like start my college career and just be done with it. But then towards the end of my college career, I started loving it and didn't want it to end. But so then Ohio State got a hold of me. We talked, and then I got on campus, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to go.
So who are I think I know, like, who at the time when you were in college were like the powerhouses?
Oh, man. Obviously, Alabama was, Washington was, Florida's always, Georgia at the time was, a lot of SEC, Pac-12 schools, all that kind of stuff. Michigan, though, too, they were at the top. They had like a stacked team at the time when I was playing in college. So those are kind of like a lot of the UCLA, obviously. Those are the teams you wanted to stay clear of.
So do you think it is, like, recruiting wise with girls out of high school, are those Southern and Pac-12 states, are they some of the most recruited states in terms of softball, or is it a Midwest thing? Like, do you know roughly the areas that are, like, because I know in football, like Florida, California, Texas, these warm states where they can play year round.
Yeah.
Is that the same for softball?
Yes.
I figured.
Yeah. Out west, everyone, like, they try to pull out west kids, down south, obviously, too. But when I tell you Ohio has so many kids coming out, like Taryn went to Washington, Jenna Lilly went to Oregon and played. Another girl, I forget her name, but she went to South Carolina. I mean, there was a whole bunch of girls that were coming out of Ohio that were going out west to schools down south instead of Ohio State. So it's like Ohio does have a lot of talent, though.
It is Central Ohio has a massive talent. Like, in high school, I can't tell you how many people I played against that went D1 in football, basketball. I went to school with Chandler Day, who went to Vanderbilt for baseball. Like, I played with, we also are one of our track athletes. He set the state cross country record 2 years in a row. And like, just the athletes that come out of Central Ohio, it's sometimes overlooked.
Yes.
But I do love when they go to Ohio State. It just makes me happy personally, because I'm an Ohio State fan. So it's nice to see Central Ohio kids going to essentially their home school. And you see people, the Borans for football. One went to Ohio State, but one went to Michigan because Ohio State never recruited him. And so it's a weird thing. What was your time like at Ohio State? Was it enjoyable? You said you didn't want your career to end at the end, which is kind of different for me, but I had different circumstances where my senior year was the COVID year.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a season. So and they were trying to get me to come back, and I was like, kind of fell out of love with it. Did you ever have that where you fell out of love with your sport, or was it at Louisville, or was it just in different time?
I had it happen to me when I was a teenager. Like, I was burnt out because I was playing all year round, constantly, lessons all the time. So I was just like, I'm just tired. I didn't really get to have a social life as a teenager. So I started getting burnt out then, and then my first year at Ohio State was the hardest. I wanted to be a nurse, so I had to do all these.
Is that just a thing in your guys' friend group or something? I mean, geez.
I know we all wanted to be nurses, or they are nurses, but no, I really wanted to be a nurse. My whole family, my mom, my sisters were nurses too. So, and so when I was taking all those classes at Ohio State, I was just, oh my gosh, it was so difficult. And come to find out after talking to my advisor, they were like, they tried to wean out everyone in the undergrad. And so our plan was for me to go back and get my master's in nursing. But that was the worst year, schooling wise, trying to adjust to that. Like, oh, it was awful.
What year was that? Did you say?
That would have been in 2016 to 2017 year.
Was that
That would have been a nice sophomore year.
sophomore year is the worst.
Yeah.
Everyone I've ever talked to, and it was the same for me, was the worst year of like classes and everything.
Yeah.
Like, I got my starting position my sophomore year of college, and I like had the most fun in football, but it was the toughest year of my life in football, and also my toughest year of academics. And I wasn't overloaded in classes really. I was overloaded a touch because I thought I could take more classes than I should have, and just like a couple extra classes. But that sophomore year, and it's I think that's also too like the point where you start getting a lot more of that homesickness too. Even if you're close, you kind of get that homesick feeling of like, I miss my family, I miss my friends from back home. But then junior year, I feel like everything kind of flips.
Yep.
Which from a lot of people that I've talked to, was it very similar for you?
Yes, very similar.
I feel like you start to grow those relationships with the people at college, and you actually start to really gain traction with like friends, and that become lifelong friends and that kind of stuff. So it is very weird how it is a common thing.
Yeah.
Who was the toughest team and player that you ever played against, whether it was in high school, college, we'll just stick the college at the max right now.
I have horrible memory, but I'll never forget this moment. She was at Michigan State. I forget her name, but she was left-handed batter, and she was one of the hardest hitters for me to get out. And I just remember battling with her in one at bat for so many pitches. And I remember like every time I had faced her, she always got a hit off me. It didn't matter what I threw. She would just freaking hit it, whether it was a bloop hit or a hard hit or a home run, whatever. And I finally got her out that time, and I was like, yes, I freaking beat you.
But it goes back to that challenge of having that challenge of not feeling like, or knowing you can do it, but not being able to do it. I feel like just drives people more.
Yeah.
Or at least it should drive you more. If it doesn't, you need to kind of take a look in the mirror, in my opinion. Like when you're going to go up against people in sports and life and business and everything, where you're not expected to win this battle, or you are expected and you might fail, but it's okay, because you still, that's the cool thing, is you have another opportunity, whether it's the same exact type of opportunity, maybe not necessarily, but you will have an opportunity to like revenge yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the cool things about, especially like with softball, is you go up against batters multiple times a lot, so like you won't, maybe they hit that home run off of you, and then you come back and strike them out. It's a whole different. It's always you control your destiny, essentially.
Yeah, I think too, what helps is if you believe that you can do that. You know what I mean? Some people, there's a lot of times too that I'd be like, oh crap, she's up again. Like, this is not going to be great. You know, and I remember in that moment I was like, I'm freaking getting her today. And so, like, having that belief that you can accomplish that sets the tone, too, for that.
100%. I feel like if you come into something not believing in yourself, you're already putting yourself back.
Yes.
You maybe not have it lost yet, but you kind of, in my opinion, you almost do lose right away. Yeah. Because, like, we play horse at the shop all the time. And he's 25, the guy I work with. And there's times where he's like, well, I'm not going to make this. And I'm like, you already lost.
Yeah.
And he's like, why do you think that way? And I'm like, because, like, I don't know. That's just my brain. Like, that's how I work. Like, I don't always, like, 100% think I'm going to make it. But I'm like, I can make this. I know I can make it. Will I make it? I don't know. But I'm going to try. Like, I'm going to try and do what I can. And that's what what is like the is that like one of the best mentalities, like I don't want to say mentality. Like what type of mentality should a pitcher have? Is that one of the type of mentality?
Oh yeah. Like I even tell my girls, we work on this stuff, like even when they're young. I'm like, you have to go up there on that mound and own it every single time. I don't even care if you're really not that great, you know? It doesn't matter. You have to go in there having that pitcher swag and that 100% confidence and belief in yourself that it doesn't matter if she's the best hitter in the state, you are better. And so we have to work on that mentality too, like training them to have confidence in themselves because that does set us apart from the next pitcher.
And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you don't have that confidence in yourself, that batter can see that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Me being a pitching, like a hitting pitcher, you can identify that kind of stuff right off the bat. And so you know if I was hitting against the pitcher that I knew I could like just tank one off of, I'm like, okay, I have this in the bag. Like, no worries.
How common is it to be a hitting pitcher? That was one of the things, obviously I asked Sierra some things, which I already had a script, so she didn't give me much. But that was one of the things she was like, she was a hitting pitcher. So like, is that, obviously it's not very common. How common is it though?
So when I played, not a lot of college coaches wanted you to be a hitting pitcher. Some of them are fine with it and loved it. But most of them were like, cool, you can hit, but we don't want you to get hurt. So no, you're not hitting for me. But now it's a totally different game. Like if you can be a hitting pitcher, props to you. And even better, like we just got a 2-in-1 athlete. You know what I mean? So like if you can hit a ball now, like
it's like a 2-for-1 special.
Yeah.
Like you don't. If you have just a pitcher, you still have to have somebody in the batting lineup.
Yes.
So now you have to find somebody else, like recruiting wise, to fill that void. So I don't know. I definitely feel like that's definitely a benefit.
Yep.
And I don't see. I mean, I guess like how common is it for a pitcher to get hurt when they're Like I don't feel like you see too many batters get hurt necessarily.
Well, there was a time where it was getting pretty common because there was a lot of people. For instance, there's one girl who was in the batter's box. I remember watching this on TV. And so you can choose if you want to wear a face mask or not when you're batting. You don't have to. She wasn't a pitcher, but she was a fielder. And the ball foul tipped off the bat and went right into her eye socket and shattered her whole like cheekbone, like everything. And so it's like a freak accident, but that does happen. And then obviously if you hit a ball, you have to run and you don't know if when they get on base, some people could tear an ACL, freaking break ankle. It's just like freak things that could happen. And so when you are a college coach investing your money in their arm and then all of a sudden now they hurt something else, now they're out that money and that investment they put into you to take you and your team to the next level. You know what I mean? Like that's like you're gambling. And some college coaches don't want to do that.
That makes sense then. I wanted to ask too, like as a pitcher, home runs are bound to happen.
Yep.
What is the mentality like if someone rips a home run off you?
On to the next. Oh, there was a couple times where I've had ones like hit off of me and I just didn't even look. I'm like, yep, that's gone. Like whatever. Gonna happen, move on. And at the beginning of my career, it sucks when you're young, but when you're in college, it's bound to happen. So you just roll with the punches and on to the next one. You don't have time to sit there and dwell on it. You have to snap back real quick.
And I feel like a lot of people should take that like advice, not just in pitching, but in life.
Yes.
That it is one of the things that people are gonna beat you. They're gonna hit home runs off of you in life. You don't always have to watch it either.
Yeah.
Too many people are on social media paying attention to other people or what they're doing. And like, if you just kind of take it with a grain of salt, it happens. It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Learn from it and grow and just continue going. Like you just have to keep moving. Too many people get lost in looking at the past essentially, because if you allow that home run to affect the next batter, another home run could happen.
Yeah.
And then you could start a downhill spiral essentially. And
A
you
domino
definitely,
effect,
you really do not, especially in sports, not only in sports but in life.
Mhm.
You don't want that kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Hey Roughnecks, it's me, Cole. Sorry for interrupting your listening experience. I hope you're enjoying today's episode, but I had to take a quick break to tell you guys about none other than Desert Fox Golf. There is no better gift to get your golf crazy loved one than some of their products. My personal favorites are the phone caddy, which straps to the golf cart and holds your phone in the absolute most convenient location. Plus, you can grab a tumbler while you're there. My personal favorites are the Patriot Aid tumbler and the Swing Aid tumblers. Head over to desertfoxgolf.com. Use the promo code Roughnecks at checkout for 10% off your order. Let's get back to today's episode. So, did you play all 4 years of college?
Yeah.
And then when you said you took a break for a year and then went and played professionally?
Yeah, so I had an offer after my senior year. I wanted to play for the Cleveland Comets because they were in Ohio. It was close to home, whatever. They had offered me to come right out of the college and play, and I turned it down because I, just full of great choices back then. I turned it down. I took a year off and I missed it. So I had reached out to them if they needed anyone to fill their roster. I said I literally would just be on your roster if you needed someone to throw. Like, I just wanted to be on staff if needed. Well, someone fell out as a pitcher on staff and they said, we will pay you to play. And I'm like, yeah, I'm taking it. And I mean, it's not like you weren't getting paid a lot. Like, unfortunately, as a female athlete, especially in the softball world, it's different now, thankfully, but we did not get paid a lot at all. So trying to survive for those 3 months off of what little you had, it wasn't feasible.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. And then, like, you do see it in all women's sports, which it is getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, women's sports are growing in terms of like viewership as well.
Yeah.
You're starting to see a lot more interaction. Like, no, it's because of Sierra, definitely, but I watch a lot more college, especially college sports with like women's sports with volleyball and softball and that kind of stuff. And it's actually really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
That's what I think the misconception is with a lot of people. They're like, it's so boring. And it's like, it's no different than a male sport, really. It's not. No, the only sport I'll say basketball is the other one, the one that I struggle with. But the rest of them, I do enjoy watching. I don't mind watching them at all. So is there like, they don't have like a draft, or how does that work?
No, they do. So I didn't get drafted to play.
Okay.
My college coach knew, she was an assistant at the time. She knew the coaching staff for the Cleveland Comets. So she had reached out to them and they said, yeah, they'd take me at the time. And then I was like, I'm good. I don't want to play anymore. But they do the draft. And so now they have Athletes Unlimited. There's so many different leagues now. It's like so different. But Athletes Unlimited is like the core pro ball one that everyone reaches out. But then they have, oh gosh, dang it. They just had the Women's Pro Fast Pitch League. Now that opted out. And now they have like, I don't know how to word that right. They have like some teams like outside of the organization, if that makes sense, that have their own little league that is going on and stuff like that. So, but hopefully that continues to grow because that'll help in the softball world so much. And NFCA just got a partnership with the MLB. So they're like sponsoring them, I think, if I remember right. I think I worded that. You might have to cut that out, but I don't know. But yeah, so that's a big step for the softball world.
How many years did you play in professionally?
1.
Just 1?
Yeah.
How was your experience, other than the money aspect? How was your experience?
Amazing.
With it? Really?
Yeah. There was moments where I was like, what am I doing? Because when you're when we were playing pro, it would be like we had one game on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right now, you went back to double headers, and we're like, oh god, with double header games, like really? But then you would be in Chicago for 2 weeks, and then you would go back home to Cleveland for 2 days, and then you would leave and go back to Chicago. Like it was like you were on the road a lot. So, and when we were living up there in Cleveland, it was like you were staying in a extended stay, like a hotel type
Mhm.
thing. But so we were just constantly rolling. We'd be down in Florida, Daytona, Chicago was the big place to go to. But I mean, it was fun. I got to travel a lot, which was awesome. I met so many different people. But the Cleveland Comets were owned by the Mexican national team. So
Okay.
Mexico. So it
That's
was like their
interesting.
whole Mexican national team on there, and then like it was like a couple Americans.
Huh.
Uh-huh.
Was there a Did you have like a language barrier with that, or did they all
No.
speak pretty good English?
No. They were like all players that had just came from college too and were playing
Okay.
stuff like that, but they were prepping for the Olympics. So that's what they were prepping for. But no language barrier. I mean, they all spoke Spanish and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It was a fun group to be around.
Which level of softball, whether it was back even the little league, did you enjoy the most?
Wow. My dad has asked me this question before. I think, I think there's differences at each level. I would say I enjoyed professional softball in regards to it was like on your time, you had more of like availability to do
Mhm.
things. Um, College atmosphere was tenfold. Couldn't ask for anything better than the college atmosphere when you're playing. Having a full stand, full stadium that was amazing. And then when we won states that year, that was a memory I'll never forget because you were just like every seat in the stadium was packed too. Like that's so I think there's different things for each level.
What was the competition level step up from high school to college, from college to professional?
Ooh. Oh. And I'm meaning that in like a oh.
Yeah.
When you went from high school to college, it's like, whoa. And then
Mhm.
once you go from college to pro, you're playing against some of the best players in the professional league that were the best players in college
Oh, and
that
you're
everybody
also,
knew about.
like you mentioned, you're playing against some of the best players from from countries,
Yeah.
like that are playing in the Olympics, which are
Yes.
the best of the best.
Yes. So I mean, it was like you just kept upping, the ante type thing. And so when you're in pro ball, it's like you have really no room for mistakes,
Yeah.
and a mistake could be costly.
It is weird how like a mistake in high school, yes, it matters, but
Mhm.
like it made, I don't want to say a minor impact on the game,
Yeah.
but like we thought it was so major. But then when you step up to the next level, it's like that mistake just grew even to a even bigger
Mhm.
mistake, and you don't realize it. Like giving up a touchdown in high school, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it sucks. You definitely don't want to do it. But when you gave up a touchdown in college, you were like, I could lose my spot.
Yeah.
We might lose this game. It
Mhm.
was just a whole different experience of what mistakes meant at each level.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts now with the NIL deals? And do you wish you could go back and have NIL deals?
I love the NIL deals. That was one thing that was really upsetting when I was playing. So glad they did that. um See, when I was playing in college, we couldn't use our name, image, and likeness at all. So, and I try to explain this to people, my students now. It was like walking on eggshells. Like what you posted, if you were going to go home and give lessons like I did, like how was I supposed to like establish myself doing
Yeah.
that? And so every weekend for me, I was going back home and working when I was at Ohio State. Like once Friday hit, I was Friday, Saturday, Sunday giving lessons. So I had to like build and establish myself by word of mouth. Now, thank goodness. And yes, I wish I could go back because I am so jealous. Like looking at everyone make all the endorsement money that they are getting all that kind of stuff. It's awesome to see that, and props to that. But and what was so deserving for all the athletes now, because really it is them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what drove me nuts about it, I think there needs to be some type of line between it of like how much you can make, because if you'd give me $1 million at 18 years old,
Oh yeah.
I don't know where I'd end up. But I do I know like Ohio State, I've talked to ex players that are and ex coaches from there, and they've told me like we have a class that we have to take, and they teach us about the contracts and just things like to look out for, and I really like that. And it's probably not available at every college, but I know it's talked about, and that was like one of the things when even at D3 level, they're like, you guys can't make like I had the podcast, but I had to somewhat be careful about it because not that I was making money at the time, but like I couldn't make money off of it in college because the NIL wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
And it is, I do like it because what drove me nuts is like the player was not allowed to make money off of their name and image and likeness, but the university was.
Yes.
These other companies were allowed to, and you never saw a dime of it. And it was like, doesn't make like, if however you sold millions of these jerseys and they don't get a penny out of it, but you make so much money off of it. That's one of the things that did drive me nuts with it. And I'm glad that they do allow athletes to be paid. And it is kind of crazy because like Marvin Harrison Jr. might come back to Ohio State, and because he was offered an NIL deal that would be more than his rookie signing in the NFL.
Isn't it wild?
That's really crazy to think that you can almost make more money staying in college than you can playing professionally. Yeah.
I keep telling everybody, I'm like, now when I look at college, I see it as like a minor league.
Yeah.
And I don't see it as like a college. It's like the minor leagues of sports now.
That's a really good way to look at it. I've never thought of it that way, but it really is.
Yeah.
With all the money that you can make. Yeah. I agree. So you also have your business, McCombs Elite Fast Pitch, correct?
Yep.
So you started that in college?
So I started giving lessons in 2016 when I came to Ohio State, and I was just doing that on the side, like just trying to earn cash and stuff like that.
So do you only teach pitchers, or do you teach?
I was doing hitting and pitching, and then when I had my first son, I stopped like doing the hitting, and then I tried again, and then I got pregnant. And then I was like, yeah, I'm not doing hitting anymore, and then how I operate my business now with my pitchers, I just can't do hitting and pitching. But I miss it. I do miss giving hitting lessons, but when I'm not as confident. I mean, I am confident giving hitting lessons, but my eye is better for pitching, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I can see every little detail better.
Yeah.
With pitching. And then when I graduated in 2018 in college, that's when I established my business name, set it all up, and I took off with it.
What is it like balancing business as being a mom as well? Because I know that can be difficult. Like, do you have any tips for maybe somebody that is an entrepreneur and has a business, or like, do you have anything that you recommend?
Time management. Even I think that's one thing that just goes with us with life. It's just time managing. I'm not the best at it.
Neither am I.
Yeah. I'm still learning, but yeah, when you are trying to be an entrepreneur and you're a mother and a single mom at that too, it is so challenging because you have all the responsibilities of trying to have a successful business, but also being a mom and doing all the things, and it's just like you have to balance that very well.
Time management is huge.
Yeah.
And I learned more about it in college because like high school, I feel like I had no time management whatsoever.
Yeah, agreed.
come to college and you don't have people like you can't wait till the last night always to do your homework or write that 10-page paper like I did.
Me too.
And like my
Me too.
freshman year academically was very bad on the verge of not being able to play football again. And it kind of, and then like sophomore year is when I really started to get into the time management and like calendars and just planning things out. And once you start planning and managing your time a lot better,
Yes.
which like you said, and I agree, like we're not going to be perfect at it.
No.
But when you're in your 20s, you're not going to have it all figured out.
Yep.
Once you get a little older, it might start to make a little more sense. Which even I still can look at my dad today, like, and he's in his 60s, and he's like, I don't manage my time perfect. Like,
Yeah.
there's times where he's like, oh crap, I meant to do that, and it's like you lose track of time, and that happens. But time management is one of the skills that I wish I paid attention to and actually focused on a little bit more when I was younger.
Agreed. I do agree. I tell everyone now the best thing that I learned was taking that planner and doing things by the hour. Like scheduling it out, and if I didn't hit it, like that's fine. Figure it out to fit it in somewhere else, and then setting like goals for the week and all that stuff. Like if you can find a planner that has all that stuff in there, I would live by that. And I think that helps so much to utilize my time properly, because now with everyone in technology and those stupid cell phones, we can get so lost so fast and just scrolling and doing that for hours. And then the next thing you know is that you're way behind in life.
Oh, yeah.
And all the different types of things.
I catch myself all the time where I'm supposed to be making a post for the podcast or something. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I haven't even made the post and I've been scrolling on Instagram for a half hour. Like it is scary how quick you can get lost in that. But the planning, the planners, like you can get too crazy with them, trust me, because I've been there where I had too many calendars, too many different types of planners, and then you get lost in everything. One of the things that I personally do is like each day when I come down here or when I have things to do, I like write high, medium, and low, and high priority, medium priority, low priority. I write out the things I need to get done. As long as I think you get your high priority things done, you're good. Like the high priority are the things that I feel like you need to get done that day.
Yep.
Like those are your goals for that day. The medium, if you don't get them done that day, not that big of a deal, and especially the low. Like these are things you'd like to get to today, but if you don't, it doesn't make a big deal. But you said like one of the things you said was if I didn't get it done in that hour or whatever, it's fine. Try and fit it in. That's one thing that I struggled with personally, where if I didn't get everything done, I lost my mind. Like I got pissed and I was like, I'm not getting everything done. And I felt like I was constantly behind. Yeah, I think that's a very good quality to have, where it's like, all right, I didn't get this done, but then also you turn around and we're like, where can I fit it in next? And like try to still, don't just forget about it, but fit it in somewhere and try to still get it done.
Yeah. I wasn't always like that, but yes, I had to develop and learn that.
It takes a lot of growth. Like that kind of stuff does take a lot of growth, because I think we're used to, especially like as kids, like you just had to get everything done, and it had to be done by time.
I think that's like the athlete in us, though. You know what I mean?
I do agree.
Like we're so competitive within ourselves too that we try to overdo our schedules so much because we think that we can handle it. And then when we don't, like, oh, I didn't accomplish that. Dang it! And then it's like self-inflicted at the same time.
Yeah, because especially in college, your schedule gets cramped.
Yes,
with a lot between classes, trying to have a social life, practice, film, everything else that you had, meetings, advisor meetings, everything that you have to fit in 1 week, 1 day, whatever. Like, I mean, there's times where you have to balance class and meetings like back to back.
Yeah, and
you have to tell coaches like, hey, I have class till 12:50, the meeting's at 1. They're like, then you better run. And it's like, what? Luckily, we had a small campus, so I was able to get to and from very quickly. But it is like you start the prioritization of time. And I do agree that competition aspect in us, I think, makes us that way.
Yeah.
What are some of the most common issues that you see with young pitchers, especially like when you're starting out, that is like one of the most common things that you have to work with?
Form, mechanics. I think that's just everything. Just because people, they're starting out new, fresh, sometimes. So that's just a lot what you have to look for. And when I say form, everyone's not going to be the same. However, how they move is really important because it affects their health.
Okay.
That's how I teach. I want my girls to be healthy. Like reducing the risk of injury is very important to me. So that's one thing that I oversee a lot of, like trying to make sure that they stay healthy for a longer period. And I'm not saying they won't ever have an injury, but that's one thing that I look for.
What is one piece of advice you would give to someone? Maybe they don't come to you, or they're just listening, or just maybe it's a parent listening and they want to be able to give their daughter a piece of advice. What is something that you would give an advice to a young pitcher?
Get strong.
Now, what type of strong are we talking? Are we talking weight room type strong?
Yes, I'm not, like literally. If I just had a conversation with a parent last week actually, and I said to the dad, I said, we are asking your daughter, who is 10 years old, to play 5 games in a weekend and to last that whole weekend, without getting tired and all that kind of stuff. That's not feasible for her. That's what a high level player, a pro player would be able to do. We might grump about it,
And they're still going to be sore from it.
Correct.
They're still going to be feeling the implications of that
Yes.
much stress.
Yes. But these kids are prepubescent. They haven't even had gone through puberty yet, and we're asking them to do and maintain that. Like that's not feasible. So yes, being strong and making sure that you are keeping your muscles healthy and your body moving, because some girls are only one sport athletes. Some of them aren't multi-sports, which multi-sport athletes help. But like for me, I was a one sport athlete by the time I was in middle school. So my risk of injury increased because I wasn't working one side of my body. So that's one thing that I preach to all of my pitchers is see a strength and conditioning coach if this is the route you want to take.
So do you agree with being a one sport athlete, or what are your thoughts on the one sport athlete side of things? Because it's different. I'm not used to asking a one sport athlete this question. Usually a lot of people that I talk to were multi-sport.
I don't disagree and I don't agree. As long as, number one, as long as the kid's happy, that's the main focus. Mental health is big thing for me. But at the same time, I think that you can. It's harder when you're a one sport athlete. I think because I go back to the body thing just because when I think about me and how I understand sports now is I was only working one side of my body. It was more, pitching is more of a one person type thing, you know what I mean? Unless you're on the field. And so when you're in basketball or volleyball, it's very team oriented. And now there's obviously things that you can focus on. But when you're pitching, you go to pitching lessons, it's just by yourself. You know what I mean? And so that also plays a part into that mentality thing too. So I think there's just so many differences. But as long as the girl or guy is training, if they are a one sport athlete, then I'm cool with it. But if they're not, you know what I mean, then I think that it can deter them.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and I'm not against people being a one sport athlete, because a lot of athletes that you talk to, I feel like aren't going to go pro.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for most kids to be multi-sport athletes. Now, if you are a stud at what you do, and you set your mind to, I'm going to make it to college, a D1 college, a high-level college, to go play this sport, if you set your mind to that and that's what you want to do, that's okay with me. But now if you're like, yeah, I kind of like basketball, but and you just play basketball, it's like, try something else. You never know what you might find.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is you could be, but if you are a stud, I'm not opposed to people being one sport athletes. I really don't mind it. But I feel like most people I talk to, especially you're not going to go D1, you don't have maybe the drive. You can see it in them. Maybe try other sports as well. I think there's pros and cons definitely to both.
Yeah.
Because I know when basketball season hit for me, it took away from football. I didn't get to focus on training for football.
Yeah.
And then it's not like you're restarting, but you're almost like a little step behind when you get back into training for that other sport.
Yeah.
Because I spent, other than basketball season, I spent all my time focused on football. But basketball season, that's what, 4 months, 5 months that you're not focused on the sport that you want to, progress in.
Yeah.
So that's where it is. There's a con to being a multi-sport athlete as well. So, you have these young kids nowadays playing these long weekends, playing all the time, going to pitching lessons, going to hitting lessons, going all the week. Do you think that it's almost becoming too much, or do you think that it's just kind of a changed world or like, is that what you did when you were younger? Were you constantly playing? And like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was constantly playing. So let's start from March or February, open gym start for softball. Spring season goes, then you go straight into summer travel ball, and then they do fall ball until that starts, let's see, end of August, September, or beginning of September, and it will go into the end of October, early November. And so for me, it was all year round, and you're doing the lessons in between, the training in between. But yes, I think it's getting so overwhelming for kids. And me in my business, I tell kids to take time off. I try to get people to take 2 months off. 2 months.
It's good.
And that's my business. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, that's your kid's health.
Yeah.
And so that's where I focus a lot now. But people won't do it.
No.
They don't do it at all.
It's not always this way, but sometimes with like the parents driving their kids too much,
Yes.
it's like, are you trying to live out your dream through your kid? Like, let your kid be a kid.
Yes.
Like, let your kid go ride the bike around with their friends in the neighborhood. Like, let them enjoy their life. If they're serious about it, that's fine. I know somebody, their daughter plays softball. She's 4th or 5th grade. And, she plays all year round. It's her sport. But he's like, when she looks at me and goes, I kind of just want to take a break. Like when it's in like the off season, they have their practices or whatever. And he's like, fine. But like, I don't, because he's like, I feel like if I push her too much, like obviously if she wants a break all the time, then we need to have a talk. But if, she needs a break from time to time, that's fine. Now, if it's during the season, that's one thing. But if it's the off season and she wants to take a break and, stay home with her sister, or you go outside and have do kid things. He's like, I let her, because he knows parents that are we leave from pitching practice and then we go to gymnastics practice and then we go to softball practice, and it's like, your kid is 8 years old. Let them have a life other than sports, in my opinion. And it is tough, and especially for you. I like that you try to entice people, like, take that time off. I mean, like you said, it is your business. Yeah, you're losing money at that point. Not losing, but you're not making money through that. True. So but I like, because mental health is a big thing, and especially in today's world, it's becoming more prevalent. Yeah,
and it's starting earlier. Like the kids are getting younger, and it's affecting them more. And I totally agree. Like, I think some parents just push sometimes way too hard because of their own ego. They want to be like, yeah, that's my kid. That she's performing like that. That's my daughter. Like, okay, awesome. But at the end of the day, what matters? And sometimes too, I can see it on my kid's face. Like, I will be able to tell when a girl walks in there what kind of day they've had, and I won't let them throw a ball. Like, I will get it out of them. I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing. No, we're going to talk about it, vent. I'll give them a timeline. I'm like, okay, you got 5 minutes, go. Let it all out. And then they feel better. But sometimes, like, they don't feel like they can do that, or they don't feel comfortable saying to their parents, I don't want to do this right now. Like, and fear of disappointment. And I was the same way as a kid.
Oh, I was too.
Yeah. So, like, whenever I would be so unmotivated to even do anything, my dad would get so mad. But it wasn't because I didn't want to do it. I was just so tired of doing it, And there were times when I was a kid, I left my birthday party to go to softball. My own birthday party. And I was like, what the heck? But, you know, if it wasn't, and I get both sides, you know, because
Yeah.
my dad was like, well, if I hadn't pushed you as hard as I did, would you have been able to get to where you were at? I'm like, probably not. But like, there's got to be a balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like my parents were very like, you get to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But there was times where I'm like, I wish they pushed me a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
there's times, I mean, now when I was like, I don't want to go to practice, you're going to practice.
Yeah,
Like
obviously.
that kind of thing. But like, it kind of sparked it in me, but I wish they pushed me harder because I feel like I could have made it further.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't sit here and play the what if games. The what if game doesn't get you anywhere in life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm going to kind of move into some of these final segments of the podcast.
Okay.
And if you listen to the episodes, I'm mad because now you know this question maybe is coming because I don't tell people about this question. But if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
If I could tell my 16-year-old self, you're going to be okay. You will make it. It's going to be hard. But at the end of it all, it's going to be better than what you could have imagined. That's what I would have told myself back then. Definitely.
Especially at 16, we think the world is falling apart when every little thing goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all going to work out for the best. Like when we're 16 years old, I think we get so caught up in what life is at the moment instead of what life is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We think that we have it all figured out, which we do not. I still do not. I wish I did.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome, but you're not going to have everything figured out. You're going to go through these hard times, but those hard times are what's going to help you grow and help you be better in life, in your sport, in your craft, in your field of business, and whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Those hard times are good. Do they suck? Absolutely. They still suck when I'm 25 years old.
Yeah.
But I don't regret anything hard that's ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah. And I will add to that because I'm a Christian. So if I could add to what I would tell my 16-year-old self is just to keep God first in all that I was doing. Because I think that I would get lost in the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was knowing what I know now and everything, you know, like, and how I handle situations today. I think if I would have just focused on God's plan back then it would have been so much easier.
A lot of people try to make it their own plan when it's not your plan.
Amen to that.
It's not your plan.
Yep.
Let God take it's God's plan. Let him have the plan for you, and you just continue with his plan and what he has in store for you in your life.
Yep.
But I think that perfectly leads us into the best segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week as they listen on Monday morning. So what do you got for Motivation Monday?
Do something that you are afraid to do because you don't know what might come of it, whether it be good or bad or absolutely nothing that comes of it at all. Don't be fearful of situations or anything, but just do it. Be confident in it and run with it because you don't know what could happen.
I like the part that you added with be confident in it. We talked about it earlier in the episode with the, being on the mound. No matter what you do in life, if you go into it with confidence, you are a step ahead. There we go. Words are hard for me sometimes, and I'm on a microphone a lot. But you're a step ahead if you are confident in it. Be confident in everything that you do. Whether you think it's going to work or not, go into it with confidence. I have all the time at work where I will go with an idea, and as I'm saying it, I realize how bad of an idea it is. But I say it with confidence, and then I go, with confidence, that's a bad idea. It's okay to be wrong, but as long as you still have confidence, because then they're realizing, hey, he may have made a mistake, but he was confident in it. He was confident in what he was saying, and he was actually thinking about it. And sometimes you have to say things out loud to realize how bad of ideas they are. I do that a lot. And it's very important to have confidence in yourself. Confidence will get you so far in life.
And what could go wrong if you did have confidence? Nothing.
Yeah.
You went in it with 100%, you don't lose anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You like, and I've always said, like, even if you fail, and I like to always put fail in quotation marks because you will learn more from your failures. You will learn more from your failures than you ever will your successes.
Yep.
And I'm sure that's same in sports,
Yes.
that's same in business, that's
Yep.
same in life.
Agreed.
It will carry with you forever. Failures are just a learning opportunity, a
Yep.
growth opportunity. And
Absolutely.
I really like the confidence part of this episode. But Shelby, thank you for coming on the Roughnecks
Thank you.
podcast.
Thanks for having
Was it
me.
as bad as you thought it was going to
No,
be?
it was awesome.
Once you start talking,
You just start flowing.
The nice thing is it's talking about something that you enjoy,
Yes.
that you love. So
Yep.
it's a little easier to do. Where can people find you and your business? Like if they're in the area and want to, contact you for coaching and whatnot.
So I have a Facebook page. It's called McCombs Elite Fast Pitch. You can message me on there. You can send me my phone number's on there. You can call me if you want to know more information, email, anything like that. And then I also do lessons out of the clubhouse in Newark, which is John Pyle's place.
Okay. The links for that stuff will be in the episode description if you want to find it there as well. But other than that, we do have a couple quick announcements. Like I said at the beginning, it's December 22nd, or December 11th through December 22nd. We are having 20% off all items on roughneckspodcast.com. Just go there, click on the merchandise tab, and it'll automatically be discounted. Other than that, you guys know the deal. Life is hard, and it's going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks, out. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. If you like today's episode, then be sure to click that share button and tell a friend to check us out. If you want to keep up to date on all the things that are going on with the Roughnecks podcast, then go give us a follow on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast, TikTok at Roughnecks Podcast, and Facebook Roughnecks Podcast. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any time that a new episode is released. Until next time, grab the bull by the horns. Roughnecks, out.